welcome back to the Citizen channel. Hope you're all staying safe and well. And one of our regular features, which we call Anatomy of a City Goal. Yes, we do score plenty of goals, some important ones. All goals are important, aren't they? Some drag us back into games, some put us on the very edge of glory, and some even the ultimate glory itself. But yeah, we score a lot of goals. We also score a lot of goals, although not themselves don't really affect a league or a cup run. I mean, it might be the fifth goal in a 6-0 victory, something like that. But there are goals that make you go wow, or something a little bit special about them, that those that witness them will remember them no matter what the context. And today, we're going to go back to season 2011-2012. A goal not significantly significant compared to one later in the season, of course, later that same season, but against the same opponents. Yes, so if you put into your search engine QPR 2, Manchester City 3, you tend to get you tend to get the 93-20, don't you? But you forget the game back at Loftus Road in the previous November, and that's what we're going to have a look at today. So please join me. And if you're new to the channel, please push that subscribe button, push the bell notifications. Lots of City stuff, past, present, forever, of course. It's classed as one of my history vlogs, this one. So please join us. Spread the word, that'd be great. And if you can make an old City fan very, very happy, just press that little button there that says like, or give me that thumbs up. It's nice to get views, but it's nice to get thumbs up as well. Yeah, a 3-2 win over QPR, but wasn't the May one, not the one that everyone remembers. The 5th of November 2011, bonfire night and a trip to Loftus Road. This goal actually featured in a little special in the City official magazine, Manc. You remember that? Back in issue 18, February 2012. So, yeah, so I thought I'd pick on this one. It looked good. They show little diagrams. They'll be popping up while I'm doing this of the goal. So, yeah, we'll talk about that. How was City doing at the time? We'll get back to Mr. David Silva in a minute, the guy who scored this important goal, which you probably know from the thumbnail. Fantastic. Didn't score that many. Should have scored a lot more, shouldn't he? But hey, this was a cracker. It was match day 11. And the last one before an international break. City were unbeaten in the league. Only our defeat in the Champions League away at Bayern Munich could put a little blot on the season so far. We had a nice 5-point cushion at that time. Oh, so that wasn't a last, was it? Over our neighbours from Trafford, plus a better goal difference by a matter of plus 15. Yes, so obviously that was to sort of make a big difference, wasn't it, by the end of the season, of course. Looking at QPR, they were Neil Warnock's QPR at the time. They were sat mid-table, 11th out of 20, so just below mid-table. And this was always a tricky trip to play in the tight confines of Loftus Road. It always had been. In their previous home game, QPR had actually beaten 4th place Chelsea 1-0, so that was their first home win of the season. But certainly the fans and QPR themselves were up for this one. We just returned from a trip to Spain 3 days earlier, a 3-0 win over Villarreal, so a bit of travelling involved. The only blow in that trip to Spain was poor Mancini, the manager, who obviously his head took a hefty knock as he knocked it on the roof of the dugout at the game. So he was had a little bit of a plaster and a bandage for a little bit, but there you go. We didn't have a lot of preparation time before this visit down to the capital. What about David Silva? Well, it was in his second season. He was still not the master we grew to know and love, and he would become. But he's beginning to show a level of consistency now, which eventually we just took for granted, didn't we? And as we know, as I said, mentioned before, he was never a prolific scorer, but he'd also, in 9 starts this season, he'd managed 3 goals. That wasn't a bad return. So over to Loftus Road, over to the night then on the Saturday, the 5th of November. QPR versus City. It was QPR's 5th season in the Premier League on the run at the time, but it was a season that was going to be a bit of a struggle, as you probably know, if you remember from that last game for them. Attendance of 18,076, which was a packed Loftus Road. That was as much, a couple of hundred under capacity with segregation, etc. 3,026 City fans there. This would actually be QPR's biggest crowd of the season, and it was great from the Blues to get 3,000. Right, they didn't sell out quickly, but they did sell out. It was an evening kick-off on the telly, and the tickets cost a princely £50 and £55. Yeah, there was no 30 quid. 30 is plenty in those days, or whatever. Yeah, I think it's 30 is plenty. We wanted 20 is plenty, didn't we? But we didn't get that. So there's none of that in those days. So a good turnout considering. The teams, QPR, Kenny, Gabidon, Traore. He was replaced by Hill on 91 minutes. Young, Ferdinand, Fallin, Barton, right, Phillips, Shawnee, of course. Bothroyd, he was replaced by Punchin on 76. Mackey, he was replaced on Smith on 84. Unused substitutes for Murphy, Orr, Derry and Andrade. And as you'd expect, a good response from the City fans towards Shawnee, but not a bit of a mixed one. Bit of a mixed one for Joey Barton, which you probably expect as well. In the famous red and black stripes, of course, of City, we had Richards stepping in for captain as an injured Company couldn't make it. So the City team: Hart, Richards, Lescott, Kolarov, Savic, Milner. Oh, the hell, Lescott and Savic. There's a centre-half partnership. Milner, Barry, Balotelli replaced him on 75. Silva, Yaya Toure, Dzeko, Colo Toure replaced Dzeko on 88. And Aguero, Johnson replaced Aguero. There's a substitution on 68 minutes. Unused subs: Pantilimon, Zabaleta, Clichy and Nasri. State of play: well, United closed within 2 points of us. They'd hammered Sunderland 1-0 at Old Trafford earlier in the day. So this was a pretty tense affair for City, and QPR, they came out the traps flying. They matched anything City could do, and apart from the eventual scoreline, the overall stats, I think the QPR were pretty much ahead on them all. And it was thanks mainly to not totally dominant. City were always obviously a threat, of course, but a very dominant first half from QPR where we did actually struggle. And let's go over to the match itself. Helguson twice threatened early on for QPR, and Anton Ferdinand spurned a great chance at the back post. The QPR fans were in pretty full cry. The little comments to the King of the Kippax. They're in a lot. The atmosphere was tremendous that day, and they rewarded the QPR fans in the 28th minute when Bothroyd rose highest to head in Joey Barton's curling free kick from the right. Apparently a free kick that should never have been given in the first place. Hart was trying to gee up the City fans behind the goal to match our opponents, and it sort of worked. Even the QPR fans were doing a Poznan at one stage as well. And of course, the City fans went up a gear to respond. It could have been much worse, but the aforementioned Joe Hart saved a Jamie Mackey long-range shot before Bothroyd hit the post with another header. Although City's quality was going to always leak through at times, and we always remained a threat. And just 2 minutes before half-time, Dzeko got the better of Ferdinand, cutting inside him after being found by Milner down the right and firing in low past Paddy Kenny. Despite being under the cosh for most of that half, we could have gone in 2-1 up. A 25-yarder from Sergio struck the post just on the stroke of half-time. So it was 1-1 at half-time. So we get to the goal, which was very early in the second half. We came out the second half appearing to carry on in the same sort of frame of mind, more positive that we finished the first half. And it was the 52nd minute when El Mago struck, of course. It was a QPR corner that came to nothing, and Milner found Dzeko down the left-hand side. He went marauding up the left. He'd sort of left most of the City strikers behind him. He had to sort of wait briefly to look for support, and he spotted Silva arriving in the box, and he played it neatly to him. And despite being marked by 2 QPR players, he just dropped his shoulder, superbly dropped his little shoulder ever so slightly, which was enough to lose both his markers in one goal. He took that extra touch and forward before driving a low shot past Paddy Kenny and put us 2-1 into the lead. A fantastic finish by a fantastic player, states the commentary, and who are we to argue? It was absolutely superb. Sean Riley, right, for the King of the Kippax, issue 192, said of the goal, even the judges on Strictly would have awarded a 10 for that. He was spot on. Yes, it was 2-1 for City. What about the rest of the game? Obviously, it didn't end there, did it? To their credit, QPR, although now being battered by City, never gave up. And it was they who surprisingly found the net as Bothroyd's goal-bound header from an Armand Traore cross found the net courtesy of the back of Helguson, who was stood on the goal line. He did appear offside, but the remonstrations were waved away and it was 2-2. So it wasn't job done, of course. We were struggling without old Vincent at the back there. And City would not be denied, though, and Toure would have a decisive say. This is Yaya Toure rising high to power a header. Yeah, he's got a few headers, not so many that I can remember, from a collar-off cross. We're Man City, we'll score when we want, chanted the City fans behind the goal. And City, though we rode our luck, and QPR could have actually salvaged a point near the end. Yeah, the bar denied Helgeson again, but he was onside this time with a late header, and the points went to City. As I said, we did miss a bit Vincent Kompany, I think, at the back in this game. But all credit to QPR, they had a goal, but that David Silva wonder goal had sort of helped us put our noses in front, and although they were bust again, we did manage to get them back in front. Context and conclusions. Well, we became only the second team to win 10 of our first 11 games in the Premier League. Only Chelsea had done this before back in 2005. David Silva, of course, will score many goals for us over the coming seasons. But I think the calm and coolness shown for this one, with that dip of the shoulder to leave two defenders totally wrong-footed, remains up there as one of his best, and certainly for me looking back at it and for the guys who were there on the day. Of course, we would repeat that 3-2 scoreline in a slightly more dramatic fashion, a different style, a bit later on in the season to clinch our first Premier League title. And of course, David Silva was a big part in that success. And of course, there was much more to come. As we know, we watched and remember that QPR game. Although we beat them, they did survive. It didn't matter to them. They finished 17th. They'd already parted company with Neil Warne at the previous January. So obviously all's well that ended well for QPR as well. So there you go, guys. Let me know your memories. Were you there? Were you there at Loftus Road that night? Let me know what you thought, what your memories were, and anything to do with David Silva's cause. Always welcome. Just leave us your comments. It'd be great to hear from you. So thanks for joining me for this anatomy of a goal. David Silva making it 2-1 on the 5th of November, bonfire night 2011 at QPR. A 3-2 win, but not the well-known one, a lesser-known one, but still big in its own way at Loftus Road, 5th of November 2011. Thanks for joining me. Please, until we meet again, and that's one thing, don't I? Please stay safe, Blues. Come on, City. Bye for now.